All right, guys, moving right along. This is the ATC125 front hub that we've been using. I could have probably left the drum brakes. Looks like if I just cut this bracket off, relocated it to the other side, I could have, got it hooked up. But in a previous video, I kind of whipped together this mount for a disc rotor. So I'm gonna try to mount that right there instead of the drum housing and everything like that. I like this hub and axle, etc., because the drum is bolted on. So in this video, I'm just going to be trying to pull this side apart and get it all unbolted, and then see what I have to do. This is just my arbor bolted on here, so I'll unbolt that, and then I'm probably going to have to chuck this up in the 4-jaw chuck, and I'll bore out the inside of the diameter of that to match this diameter, figure out where I want it, and then most likely weld it on. I can't bolt it to this hub here because it's going to be too far inboard. I'm going to need the rotor to sit like right on the edge probably, but we'll know more once we get the drum pulled apart. All right, that was surprisingly a piece of cake, and we have plenty of life left on these shoes here. So of course I'm going to be regretting this decision as we move forward, but no turning back now. I'm going to unbolt the housing next and then see where the disc might line up. All right, so this is definitely not for the faint of heart here, guys. Just took my time, kept going around and around in circles with the grinding disc here, and I finally got the welds to break loose. Not sure if I'm going to end up reusing this for something, but unfortunately, as you can see, I kind of mangled it, smashing it with the hammer. The other problem is that I definitely ground into the housing a little bit, so I'm gonna have to fill that back out with weld, and I'm gonna see if I could at least pull out the seal here, because I don't want to get too much heat into that. With this, I'll just put the welder on very low. I'll do a little at a time, let it cool, and kind of just work my way around. All right, so I got the dust seal pulled out, and it was actually in great shape, came right out. I didn't expect to see an open bearing in here, but the bearings are in great shape on both sides. I'm going to see if I can, just kind of repack them and put them back together. And then I'm just doing, you can see I could practically touch this already. It's still a little hot, but I'm just filling this in. I'm going to go all the way around nice and easy, and then I'll just grind it down. All right, here's that hub I cut off. I was able to bang it pretty straight on my vise. Once again, it's a sprocket, guys. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but I got it spinning pretty true in the 4-jaw chuck. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to machine this lip, the inside of this sprocket. I'm going to measure that, and then I'm going to machine that onto here so it has that little raised lip that I like. Then what I'm going to do is bolt it to it, and I'm going to take thick washers that I have, cut 2 of them in half, and I'm going to weld little bump outs onto here. Then what I'll do, I'll go around and I'll fill it in with weld, grind it flat. Hopefully this makes sense. It'll make sense once I do it. And then I'm just going to drill the holes for the sprocket. What I'm hoping to accomplish here is by having little bump ups, I think I could take the rim and kind of angle the rim to go over the 2 halves of the rim, to go over those little bump outs, and then kind of hook behind it, and then go down below and hook behind it. Because my problem is that the inside diameter of this sprocket, it's from an XR80R, if I haven't told you that before. If I make a hub to fit this sprocket, it's a little too big, and it's not going to pass through, so I won't be able to get the actual rim on. So I got the idea by actually looking at this pattern I was left on here, and I'm like, all right, if I could come up with something like that design, I could kind of turn it, hook it over, like I just said, and maybe we'll get lucky. All right, so this is what I came up with. I just welded these little triangles on here. I kind of held it. I wish I took a video of it, but sorry, I'm screwing up today, guys. But anyway, I just bolted it down with the sprocket to the bench, and then one by one I clamped, with just some welding clamps. I just clamped the little triangles down. I kind of put some like heavy duty, you know, turn up the heat a little bit, put some heavy duty tacks, let it cool, flip it over, heavy duty tacks again, and you kind of get it pretty straight. Now I'm going around with the grinder. I'll just grind it down close to flush, and then I'm going to chuck it back up in the lathe, and I'll machine it flat again. All right, guys, that's the rough design. Got a couple spots I got to just fill in with some weld and then kind of regrind it, get it to look a little nicer. But I just want to show you guys what I meant. So if I made this just one solid piece all the way around, the rims didn't fit. So if I tried to put the rim on, not going to get it on. My other alternative was to make a smaller hub, you know, or basically use the hub that I had with the 3 holes and then make a secondary hub that would bolt to that and then bolt to the sprocket. But it seemed like it was just getting crazy. So my idea, like I said, was just to weld these little tabs on. And then what I could do is try to do this one-handed. I could kind of, you know, slide it down like that, kind of going back and forth, little catty corner, get that one to sit down, and then get the other one to sit down on top of it. All right, we're gonna bounce around a little bit. I'm gonna mill out the center of the disc hub, which I made in an earlier video. I just have it in the 4-jaw chuck, and the inside of this chuck, unfortunately, is smaller in diameter than I need to bore this. So I just put a couple parallels. I have these really thick parallels. I doubled them up. I put it behind the piece, and I've just been tapping it with a lead mallet. You know, I kind of brought it in, snugged it in, then I'm tapping it, and that's just going to keep me, you know, somewhat parallel to the face of the chuck. And then, like I've showed you guys in other videos, just working these in. I'll probably put a dial indicator on it, and maybe get it centered off of this bore or my inside bore. Or I'll just say fuck it and I'll machine it the way it is. All right, guys, I think we're gonna call that done. I was luckily able to pull back the tailstock enough and move the cross slide out of the way. You definitely don't want to pull this out of the lathe to check it, guys. So if you can, you know, take your part and try to fit it while it's on the lathe. And that's a little tight. I'm only doing this one-handed, guys, but oh no, there it goes. Woo! We're gonna call that done. I'm gonna pull it off now, and then I'm gonna set it up back in the swing arm, and I'm gonna see how it looks. All right, it's another day in the books, guys. In YouTube land, you know, like one day equates to 10 minutes in video time. But anyway, I got it mocked up. Super happy with everything, except for one thing, guys. My sprocket ended up pretty close to the rim here. This is getting a 428 chain. It's going to be close. I have 2 options. I don't have any of this welded on yet. It's just press fit on there. I could try flipping the small sprocket hub, and that'll bump me out about maybe another 1/8 of an inch before I weld it. I'm reinforcing the back of that anyway, so I'm not too worried about it hanging off the edge. My other idea, obviously, is a couple washers, you know, behind the sprocket. I don't love that idea. I'd rather it sit flush. This bracket is very thin to begin with. If you guys remember, I just used the bracket that was holding the drum brakes on the other side. And it was pretty thin, so I don't really have too many options with that. I'm just going to do, like I said, I'm going to beef it up in the back and weld 4 ribs onto it. On this side, hopefully you guys can see, the disc looks phenomenal. I love the spacing. I ordered a little cart caliper that I think is going to be perfect for this, and I'll probably just figure out how to make some sort of a sliding mount, you know, when I have to adjust the chain. The stop for the drum might have to come out, or it maybe could stay. Right now I kind of have it back a little. I'm going to try to bring it all the way forward, you know, before I finalize the chain. And then I'm I'll shut the camera off. I'll put the sprocket on. I'll be back in 1 second. All right, so I got the chain on right now, guys. And like I said, it's a pretty thin chain. I definitely have about a 1/4 inch, almost 3/8 of, you know, this is going to be the only spot where it might touch. I have plenty of room, it looks like. I don't love it, but the farther I bump this out, the closer I am to this bar in the front, which I don't really want to be that close to it. I got that pretty much dead straight right now. And if, you know, when I make up these little jack shafts in the front, I'm going to need to put a bearing on the end there. And I should have plenty of room for a bearing the way it is right now. I'm also going to build a bracket on this side, put another bearing there. So I think we're going to leave that for now. I'm going to go look at my other 3-wheelers and look at some of those tires and see. I don't think they hang over the rim at all. So I'm really thinking that the rim is the farthest point. Although, if you look at this tire, definitely looks like it does stick out past. All right, guys, so this is the setup I came up with. I just got the V blocks on top of the 1, 2, 3 blocks. Put these little bushings on with the nuts on the end. And I ended up putting the outer housing of the drum setup they had, because that has the bushing built into it. So I could tighten the nut on this side. I got this nice and tight, and I'm just spinning it. It spins so nice, by the way. I put the bearings back in. Earlier I said I wasn't going to take them out. I did change my mind. I kind of, you know, changed it as I went, let's say. So I'm not sure if I talked about that again. So these bearings are open bearings, and they probably still have the original grease from the 80s in them, but man, they feel great. So I don't want to ruin them. My original thinking was leave them in there and use them to help keep the tube the right size when I weld it. And I'm really on the fence about that. The new bearings I could buy are probably crap, but they are sealed bearings, and then it also comes with the dust seal on the outside. If I leave these bearings in there, I'm not going to be able to really crank on it when I weld it, because it's probably going to screw up the bearing. So I'll have to pull it out. Yeah, I don't know. I have to decide on that one. But anyway, so I basically just put a little vise on here. I set up the dial indicator. You guys have probably seen this in the past. Put it to 0, and then you kind of just spin it. Hopefully you guys could see that. Okay, you could see I'm about 10 thousandths out right now. So you just set that to 0, and then I could tell when it's pushing against the indicator. Okay, right there is 10 thousandths. So now what that means, guys, is the sprocket mount is pushing this way against the dial indicator. So I have my little hammer here, you know, custom made. And I'm just going to give it a little tap one at a time, and then keep coming back and checking it. Just to put this in perspective, guys, a sprocket, my opinion, really doesn't matter if it's 10 thousandths out. If I spin that, I don't think there's anybody that can tell me that that's not spinning true. But we have the setup, and for the sake of my millions of YouTube followers, I'm going to show you guys how we get it as close to 0 as possible. Then we're going to screw it all up by welding on the backside anyway. But I'm going to try to just put a tack on the other side, then come back, dial indicate it again. I'll actually leave this set up like it is probably. And then I'm just going to work my way around with tacks. Then I'll probably pull the bearing out and do some final welding. I also don't like how thin this is, guys. So I have some of this stock here. What I'm going to do is put that behind like that, you know, cut it off and drill it through. This way, at least my mounting points are double thickness. And then I'll make up little triangles, you know, like that, and I'll cut them and I'll weld those fully down to the housing. That should be plenty of strong for the whopping 7 horsepower that I think that Atc125 engine makes. All right, guys, so I got it to about 7 thousandths. Now I've just been kind of going around, you know, I did tacks opposite each other, spin it, tacks opposite each other. I just keep doing that. I know I've been going back and forth with this bearing situation. I've left it in for now. What I'm going to do is, I've also decided to just leave this backing plate the way it is, and I'm going to just cut some triangles out of this, and in between all of the bolts, I'm just going to put a little triangle. I'll get that all tacked in, have everything tacked, so there's no way possible anything can move. Then I'll pull it apart, pull out the bearing. You know, my whole life, everybody's always told me once you hammer a bearing out, you can't reuse it. But I was able to get a punch or a long stainless rod I had this, guys, and I was able to pretty much push on the outside race from the opposite end and nice and easy just tap it out. They're like a slight press fit, I would say. But I might still just buy the new bearings, guys, because they are sealed, and I do like that better. But we'll see. We'll see when I get to that point. Hopefully that'll explain it a little better, just seeing what I did. I just put a bunch of tacks all the way around. I'm going to give it a couple more tacks on the triangles or the gussets, whatever you want to call them. Then I'll probably go in and weld a couple heavy passes on the inside, let that cool. Then I'll come back and finish up welding all the gussets. So I set it up in a little vise, just put the shaft in, had the bearing just sitting on the outer edge right there. Just wanted to spin it and see what it looks like. That looks just about perfect to me, guys. If I'm really nitpicking, might have a tiny, tiny little wobble to it. So we're gonna call that good. We'll let it cool, go grab some lunch, come down, finish welding it. All right, I'm gonna call that done for now, guys. Like I've said, not going crazy. Just looking to add some gussets for a little strength. Welds are nothing spectacular. I'm just trying to do it as fast as I can. It'll be painted and you'll never see it again. Looks like we're about maybe 5 thousandths out, guys. Not the end of the world. I'm going to show you guys what that looks like in actuality. Pretty much spins dead true. I'm going to consider that very good. Now, hopefully, I could go back and I'll probably just weld like 1/2 inch, flip it, 1/2 inch, go back, you know, do 4 sides and then fill in between. On stuff like this, I never have good luck just continuously welding around the housing. That's how I tend to get into trouble with things bending and whatnot. The other thing, guys, is you never want to cool with water, with a wet rag, anything like that. Stuff like this, when you're done, you just let it air dry. I also leave the rotor on, and I bolted the sprocket to this guy when I welded it to give it some extra strength and try to keep it from warping. It's kind of like acting like a jig as I weld it. All right, guys, we're gonna call that done. It's definitely spinning true enough for what I need. Now moving right along, the caliper's in the mail. I'm gonna try to come up with some sort of like a mount that slides back and forth so we could adjust the chain. And then I'm gonna keep messing around in the front here. Got these couple of sprockets. One interesting thing is that, so the XR80 chain and sprockets are 420, which is thinner. And then the 125, or these might even be 110 front sprockets. But I know the 125 is definitely 428 chain. So I'm gonna have to come off this with the 428, which puts me onto one of these guys, but I could go thinner in the back and get onto the 420 because I'm putting the jack shaft in. So with that being said, you know, I might come back to one of these little guys in there, you know, connected to there somehow, something like that. I'm also thinking if I just mounted this a little higher, this could be mounted anywhere at all because nothing's pivoting. Basically just the front is going to pivot up and down, but I don't see why I can't have, you know, this sprocket up here a little bit, and then I would need another idler down here just to keep the chain from hitting the swing arm. But it's definitely for the next video. This project is not for the faint of heart, guys. I think I'm 3 8-hour days right now, so about 24 hours in, at a minimum $100 an hour. You know, no fabrication shop in the world charges $100 an hour, except maybe in China, but we'll just go with that number, keep it easy. That's $2,400 so far. So definitely not where we wanted to be, but we'll keep chugging.